Hello everyone, welcome to the channel again. So today we'll be studying about our next literary theory, which is New Historicism. Till now we have studied most of the literary theories, about 7 to 8 literary theories, and one way or the other they talks about who is in the power and who is not. But this literary theory which we are going to study, it examines all the aspects that we have studied in almost all different theories. It takes account of economic structure, it takes account of literary, religion, cultural aspect, societal things, social issues. Every aspect, every lens we are going to use in this. So, before starting, you must know some of the simple facts that who coined it, who invented it, and what was the main base principle of the new historicism theory. So, Stephen Greenblatt, who happened to be a historicist, in 1980s, he was studying about Shakespeare, and he said that Shakespeare has been described as someone who talks about the eternal human emotions, universal values, timeless emotions. Because in any generation or in any era we read about him, those emotions are relevant in all types of generation to all types of people. But he says, Stephen Greenblatt, he says that you can't just read Shakespeare like that. You can't just say that he writes this way, ignoring the historical background which might have influenced or which must have influenced his thinking like that. So I will explain you that. But before that, the core principle, the core thing that must be clear in your head is that every text or story that is out there is shaped by historical moments which in which the text is born in, and then the text the text shapes historical moments and the historical moments shape text. This is a two-way conversation. It starts with, for example, the basic principle. If I have to tell you in the simple words, for example, there is a power structure. Now power structure can be any government institution, any authority. These are the power structures. Okay, they are there, they will create a text so as people don't question them, or they want to influence people in certain type of things, lies, truth. It may be anything. Power structure creates a text. Text goes into society. Society accepts that because it has been portrayed in such a way that they are left with no options. They are made to believe that this is right and this is divine, this is ordained, this is what truth is. So they accepts it, and while they accept the text goes back to the power structure. How? When the lower class people, they accept something, or the audience that accepts something, it strengthens the power structure, or it reproduces the power structure, and this is round and round a cycle. Power structure produces a text, text goes to society, society accepts it, the text went back to the power structure by re-strengthening and something which reproduces power structure in again in the more beautiful manner. Now here beautiful manner is like different context. The word beautiful manner is used in the different context, that is altogether different thing. But now we need to understand how new historicism is working. I'll be using 3 to 4 or maximum examples which I can use to make you understand, so that you understand it in more simplified manner. Okay. So Stephen Greenblatt was studying Shakespeare. He said that okay, these are the things, and you can't study the text alone in isolated mode. He said that you need to see the historical background he was living in, the historical things that were happening, movements that were happening. What who was like? This is the first thing: who was in the power, and how does this text drives that power? How does this text shapes the power and the power structure, the people who are in power? So for example, during that time Queen Elizabeth was in power. Okay, and let's just say Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. Now, in the old criticism ways which we have studied, we will say that Hamlet was going through some psychological tension, and he was not that much aware and not that much in the right stage, which could lead him to take some right decisions. We will say this thing that that is normal. That is what power structure made people believe, that you should just see this thing, okay? But new historicism says that you should see that who was in power at that time. It was Queen Elizabeth. Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. Now, in Hamlet, what do you see? That Hamlet, being the right here, he was feeling hesitant, he refused, he was feeling in doubt, in isolation, to take his right to just throw out the monarchy or the false person who is in the power, who happens to be Claudius. So Shakespeare did this intentionally because the movement or the situation at that point of time is was that Queen Elizabeth, for example, she had the authority to ban any of the movies, ban any of the, by movies I mean the shows that are happening there. She had the authority, and if she didn't like that thing, she would not only ban, she even had the authority to kill that person. I mean, she had that much power that she could kill Shakespeare as well. So Shakespeare had to write things keeping in mind that Queen would see it, and through the Hamlet he wanted to show, I mean, by using new historicism lens, we can see that he wanted to show that Hamlet is like feeling that you can't just throw away monarchy like that, even if you're right here. And that was what Queen Elizabeth was going to see. That's how power structure concept is working here. That Queen Elizabeth is in the power structure, and she made Shakespeare reproduce it text, not directly, I mean indirectly, but in some way Shakespeare was influenced with the fact that if he will write anything, such thing that will make her do something which is against of Shakespeare, then it is like in with no benefits. So power structure, who is in which is in the hand of Queen Elizabeth, she made Shakespeare write a text. The text was seen in the global theater. Much of the audience saw the text as the show. From there, the audience gets one idea, that you can't just rebel, even if you're right, you can't just rebel against the crown, against the monarchy. This is what the audience goes out of the theater with this message. And after this, what happens? It the feeling with which the audience left out the theater, this strengthens the power structure, or we can say this strengthens the rule of Queen Elizabeth. This is round and round structure. The same thing happens with Merchant of Venice as well, which was written by Shakespeare. It also deals with the same thing, that how we have no need to just read the text in the isolation. We need to see that who was in the power, what happened before the writing of the text, before the text was written. I mean, Rodrigo Lopez was a person who happened to be a Jew, and he tried to poison Queen Elizabeth, and he was executed in front of the whole people of the England. So that was the thing that was present at that environment at that time in 1594, and after 2 years Merchant of Venice was published. That's why it is shown that Jews are being treated in a very wrong way, and that's why Shylock has been shown as a villain in the whole play. And he says that had no Jews eyes. I mean, if we connect this play with the historical reference, we will see that it shows the exact history. History and text both are constructed at the same time, both partial, both political. Okay, this is the main context which is there. I mean, I will tell you 4 to 5 stories if I can, but it will tell the same story, that it is all about that how power structure is producing the text, how the text goes back to the society, society admits it, and it strengthens the power structure. It is the round and round two-way conversation. That is why it is different than any other of the theory which is there. Or we can understand it with other example that power and history circulates together and with each other. For example, in India, when British Raj came, the official history of British Raj tells that they came to India, they educated people, they brought education, they brought law, and they tried to civilize people. And that was the kindness from their perspective, if we understand, that they did to Indians. So in official history it is shown like that, but when we read, when we take a look over the Indian nationalist writers like Rabindranath Tagore and other writers that were there, they says that after Britishers came to India, we felt destruction, we felt colonized, we felt restriction, we felt exploitation, humiliation, disgrace. So if we read only official history, if we read only one thing, then what are we going to know? That this is the truth, this is what is happening. But if we see the other side as well, we get to know that there are two histories, there are two times that are happening at the same time, there are two things that are happening at the same time, and we would understand history better. That will shape the text as well, that will make us think that who was in the power, and we are reading only the thing that was written by the persons who were in the power. For example, in the ancient times, who were in the power? Kings, government, institution. They had the power to modify any of the text. They had the power what needs to be written, what needs to be published, what message needs to be executed. For example, when Taj Mahal was built, we only know that Taj Mahal is known for the devotion, for love. It was of the Mughal glory. It was for the. It was made by the Shah Jahan. I mean, this is what we know because it was portrayed. It was what the main historicist of at that time wrote. And what did they wrote? Which Shah Jahan wanted, who was in the power structure. He made the historicist write what served in the interest of the power structure. He wrote this, and that's why we only read um, in our stories, in our classrooms, that Taj Mahal is known for the love and devotion. That's what we read because that has been taught to us. Why that has been taught to us? Because that is what power structure, who the person who were in the power, they chose to spread only this thing. And that's why people accepted this. They didn't know that at that point of time, most of the people didn't know because that was not published, that 20,000 laborers were there. It took 22 years to build that. And I don't know that is true or not, but that all the laborers who worked there, their hands got cut because so that they cannot replicate something like Taj Mahal. I mean, only when we get to know this, that's why when we can get the rational view that what was happening in the history. This is what New Historicism says, that whenever you read the text, don't just say that, okay, this is what has been written in the history. This is about the text, and that is what is true. He says, take the text, take the historical background of the official history of the people who are underneath. If they are saying the same thing, if the text is saying the same thing, because text was saying only the thing that was portrayed, what the people in the power wanted to get portrayed. So New Historicism tries to figure out this thing. This is the essence of New Historicism, that text and history go together. Only by residing in the history, we can look inside the text in the more beautiful manner, and we can have different perspective as well. That's why I said in the earlier seconds of the video that it will include economy, It will include legislature, it will include philosophy, science, feminism, social expectations, social pressure, exploitation. It will include each of the lands that is there, because it all came from the history, and history includes everything. And that's what new historicism says, that power structure, the person who are in the power, they create a text. Now that also means that they made other people create the text, because if the people denied that they don't want to publish this sort of text, then they can even get them killed as well. So they had to write what made the power structure happy. Then this text came to the society. For example, the Manusmriti came in such a way. That's why people believe that casteism is what was divine and ordained. That's what happened actually. Manusmriti was just made by the upper class people, because they wanted the lower class people to be feel exploited without even questioning that why is it happening. That was what happened there. So power structure, the person who are in the power, they create or they made someone to write the text in favor of the people who are in the power. The text is then the text goes to the society, the audience, the person who are in the lower class people, the person whom the power structure people wants to feel exploited, or that this is the natural. This is what they do. They feel, they want them to feel that this is all what is natural, and this is what in the power means. So then they accepts it, and it strengthens the power structure. This is round and round structure that happens in new historicism. That is what new historicism is about. We can also take the example of Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book. When Rudyard Kipling was being a Britisher, but born and brought up in India, and from his childhood, he was seeing and looking the things from the eyes of British imperialism. So he thought that it was all natural, but because when he wrote Jungle Book, he was not thinking let's just defend British imperialism through this work and do all these kind of things. He was just sitting, he was about to just write an adventurous book called Jungle Book. But when we look it through the eyes of new historicism, it says that Mowgli was shown as someone who belongs to the human civilization, and human civilization here is the Britain people, and jungle is the Indian people. I mean, that is what Indian people belong to. So when this text came out, these were read by the British children, and from the early childhood, they thought that this is the real thing. That Indians are uncivilized, they are the animals, and British people are civilized, and they brought up with the same mentality, and this reinforced the power structure. That's all. That's for today. And this is New Historicism all about. The notes for New Historicism will be attached in the end of the video. See you soon.